Hello, hello. This is Alisia Young, and welcome to Teach Me Freedom. This podcast is about learning how to live a freer life from authors, entrepreneurs, and experts. Those who have done it and who teach others how to do it as well, and what it feels like while applying those methods to our lives along the way. Every episode will deliver resources, anecdotes, and/or reviews to support you in living a more freedom-filled life. Let's jump in. Please note the video version of this episode is available on YouTube at Teach Me Freedom. The link is also mentioned in the show notes. Enjoy. Hello, Freedom Finders. Welcome to our next episode. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest expert and author, Katrina Roddy. She's the author of Steal Your Skills from Corporate, How to Use Your Professional Talents to Become an Independent Contractor, which also stands for How to Become an Entrepreneur. And she's also the creator of the company, The Corporate Breakup. So thank you so much for joining us, Katrina.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. I just appreciate you pronouncing my last name right. So
we were talking about first names just now recently, and yes, so I can appreciate correct pronunciation of names for sure. Exactly. And for all of you listeners, I just wanted to set the tone for you quickly to let you know so about what this episode is going to be about. So I'm going to be, of course, asking Katrina some questions about her book. And I really want to let you know the perspective that I'm coming from. So as some of you already know, I'm currently in the world of working as an employee, working in different contracts for different employment agencies. And I'm also returning to school in the fall, and I'm also building my own business. And so I really loved reading this book because I wanted to learn more about how to make that transition into becoming a contractor, especially after something I'm sure you'll touch upon, Katrina, is that experience of having a surprise layoff, and then learn about taking the jump into entrepreneurship, especially when feeling fearful and knowing what to prepare for. Really looking forward to discussing this in more depth with you, Katrina. So welcome again to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So as you mentioned, I am best-selling author of Steal Your Skills from Corporate, but I'm also an entrepreneur coach, and I coach on the mindset that it takes to transition out of employee status to becoming what I like to say, the CEO of your own life as a new entrepreneur. I spent 30 plus now. I spent 30 plus years in the insurance industry, in corporate insurance. And it wasn't until I was laid off that I realized that I had a certain skill set, right? And these are the things that other entrepreneurs were seeking. So what I did was took my years of experience, I married it to my entrepreneur spirit, and that's how I became an entrepreneur coach. So I did it,
Beautiful.
But my natural progression, I just want to mention to everybody who's listening, I thought my natural progression was to be an independent contractor because I kind of wanted one foot in corporate and then one to, be a 1099. But that didn't work out that well. So I put both feet in, and now I'm full-blown entrepreneur.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful to hear that you made it work for you, and you're thriving now, and you're helping others to be able to learn how to do that for their lives as well, because it's a strong
hard.
Desire. Yes. And we're in Canada. Some of us are in Canada, so I'm in Canada. And can you please mention what 1099 is?
Yes.
Yes.
1099 is a tax term, and it stands for independent contractor. So during tax time, when everyone is getting their taxes, you may get what they call a W-2, which tells the tax individual, tell the government that you were an actual employee. So it's a definition for that. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this. And then a 10,
no problem.
You get a form that's a 10, it says 1099 on the top. That gives the government an inkling that, not even an inkling, it tells them that you are an independent contractor. So your taxes are handled a little bit differently.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that, because as something that you mentioned in the book is one of the sections is Business 101, and that's something that we need to be familiar with is how do we manage our taxes, and how are we being classified, and being informed about that side of things as well.
Yeah, and it's very important. And this is what I like to say. Um, a lot of us, if you're an entrepreneur, you're in your business, you know your craft 100%. But what people tend to fail at is the business part of it. Like you don't hire the right people. So imagine this: if I have all your viewers to close your eyes and think of the best home that you can find, like talk think about what it looks like, where it is, what the back porch is, what the yard is. I don't know, whatever you describe as your best home, think of that, right? So
Hmm.
then describe that to me. Describe that. And what I get from that is people will tell me about their granite countertops or their marble bathrooms or their floors and their ceilings and how big the yard is. And maybe they have horses. I don't know, whatever their dream is, right? But I can tell you this: not one person ever tells me how pretty the foundation is. And the foundation is what's holding it all up. Without that, you don't have the pretty stuff. So
Yeah.
that's what business is for most entrepreneurs. It's not pretty because you got to hire an attorney, you got to hire an insurance person, you got to hire, an accountant. You got to bring people, other professions in your life. But it's the foundation. These are the things that's going to keep you afloat when you are able to get the pretty stuff that comes with marketing, because marketing is so pretty to people. So I just want them to think of that. It's the house. You got to think about the
Yeah.
foundation, and that foundation is definitely the business stuff, and that's the business 101, the taxes, the insurance, all of the stuff you're like, blah,
Hmm.
but it has to be done.
Yes.
Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Absolutely. It does make
Yeah.
sense. And I love the metaphor that you used, or that image, because it's like we don't want to be building this beautiful house on something that where if it rains a lot, it's going to slide
Yeah.
down and crumble. Like,
Yeah. There's no foundation and then it goes away. And that's definitely, it's with life. Like there has to be some type of foundation, especially as an entrepreneur in business.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for starting us off that way. It's I'm so excited. I'm so excited to just talk to you more about this. I'm really excited. And can you walk us through what the key things are that your book takes us through?
So, just to give you an idea of why I even thought of writing the book, right?
Yeah.
So, I spent all of this time in corporate insurance, and there were five of us on our team. So, four of them said, I'm going to retire. Yay! They letting us go. This is perfect. And I was the one who's like, I got to find a gig. I have to find a job. But what I did know for sure is that I did not want to go back to corporate because I had been in it so long. So I was
Mhm.
like, I don't really want to do this. I started at the age of 18. So if you can
Okay.
imagine, right out of high school, I graduated high school in June. In July, I had a corporate job along with my college because I went to a very strict business school. And I was part of a program that said you can work half day. That job would become a class of yours. They would report back to the school how you dress, what kind of appearance you have. Are you business savvy? They would report that. So I started working right away. So fast forward to now, I was tired. I was like, it's going to get to a point where I don't. So I thought I could have another 4 to 5 years to plan it out, and it didn't happen. They let go of us, and I was like, what do I do? I know I don't want to go
Mhm.
back, but what do I do? So that's when I mentioned I thought the natural progression was to become an independent contractor. So I did that. But when I did that, what I learned from it is how to network on a personal level, because before I worked on such large accounts in the groups that I've been in, I didn't really know the how to work with just basic consumers. So I learned
Okay.
that, and during my networking, what I would do is I would go talk to individuals and teach them how to do certain things. And I would say, oh, yeah, they would ask me, Katrina, can you show us how to network? Yeah, I can show you. Can you show us how to budget? Yeah. So I would have these meetings with people. And one lady pulled me to the side and said, honey, you give out too much free information. Like, this is your job. And that's when it struck me. So what I wanted to do was take all of those things that I've been talking to people about and put them in one location, and that was a book. So what I've done in this book is created 8 steps to help people get from beginning to the end of them working as an entrepreneur. Now, these are things that people can go back to. It's a toolkit for them. They can always refer back. Some of my previous clients will tell me that always, oh, I went back to that chapter. But it starts off with skills. I definitely will help people pull their skills because a lot of times they don't know where to pull them from. Maybe they've been doing something for so long, they don't realize that that's a skill set they have and the person next to them doesn't have that. So it's skills, it's goal setting, it's business one on one, it's networking, it's marketing, it's mentorship. That's huge. It's
Mhm.
mentorship, it's time management. And I have this personality thing in there called marathon versus sprinter. Now, I've expanded on that when I coach with people, but
Ooh.
basically, I've learned that I was a sprinter. And what I mean by that is think about, and I always have these analogies, think about Olympians, I guess, because they're the highest level of runners, right? There's a certain type of muscle buildup for a marathoner, and there's a certain type of muscle buildup for a sprinter. But you're born with that DNA. I just can't go out and run a marathon and feel like I'm going to be good while this guy's cruising through it because he has DNA for it. So there's a certain things that you do. Neither one of them are wrong. It's just how you work. And so that's part of when I coach people, I go through an assessment with them just to say, hey, here's the type of person you are. Here's how you will respond to things when you're an entrepreneur. So those are the 8 steps I take them through. And then there's a lot of other stuff too. So
Yes. Oh, that was beautiful. That's such a beautiful, comprehensive understanding of what we get to learn about in this gift and gem of this book that you've created and packed your knowledge and
yeah,
experience into. And now I'm excited to ask you some more questions.
sure.
And I'm so glad that you touched on many of these things. And I wanted to start by really reading out something that a quote that you shared in the book, because once I read this part, I was like fully invested. I'm
Oh
like,
my
I
gosh.
feel you here. So you wrote, then it happened. I spent 10 years in my perfect job with manageable stress until the company went through reorganizational changes. My team and I were part of the reduction in workforce. This was such an unfortunate and devastating event for me. All I knew was corporate, but the hustle and bustle wore me out. I wanted to use my skills to do something else. I collected severance, unemployment, and I had savings, but I did not have a clue as to what I would do next. I only knew that I had about a year to figure it out. So this brings up so many questions.
Oh
Like
gosh.
how does it feel to think about where you are now and where you were at in that very moment?
I can tell you this, and this is me being vulnerable because I encourage people to share their story 100%. I went into work as an independent, went into an independent contractor work. I cried for one entire year. I mean,
Why?
from January to December when I left, because I gave myself a year to work there. And the reason I cried is because I felt out of place. I did not feel like nobody cares that you were in corporate. They don't care at what level you were there. When you go work for another job and they don't care because it's not the same industry, it's not the same. And so I started feeling like that and I was like, "Hey, I was an executive there. What are you talking to me like that for?"
Mhm.
Or I just felt out of place. I felt unworthy. Um, did I make the right moves? Did I, and it wasn't even my choice. They let me go. So it wasn't a matter of did I make the right move? Should I have gone back to corporate? Should I, like, all of these things are playing out over time. And so if I tell you I cried the entire year, it wasn't until I can pinpoint this September where I realized. So from January when I started to around September, I said, I know why I'm crying because I am mourning. I am in mourning of this job that I had that I loved so much. I had nothing to do with it. They're making it seem like it was my fault that I had to leave. I had nothing to do with me. And at that point, I started to strap up and was like, what's next? Like, what am I going to do? And, I just kept going. And then by that time, I had started creating this entrepreneurship. I started, thinking about the book. All of these things started opening up because I started changing my mindset. I stopped being the victim and said, This is an opportunity.
Yeah.
I talk about this a lot when I do coach with individuals. It's the what if theory. They always come to me and they'll say, what if I start this, Katrina, and I don't have enough fans? I don't have enough friends and family to support me. What if I don't make enough money? All of these negative what ifs, but the universe works on a balance, right? So one side has to take over the other side. So what if you do? How about stay on the positive side of what if? What if you succeed? What if you do have enough fans? What if you don't know that if you stay on the negative side of it? So that was me. I ended up turning everything around. My mindset was the biggest thing that I had to change. I started doing some meditation. I like to use this acronym called MOVES. And the acronym, it's called, I'll say, go through your 5 stages of grief, because you're going to go through them. You're going to go through anger. You're going to be upset. You're going to go through sleep disturbances, avoidance, all of that stuff that comes with losing something, separation from anything. And after you go through that, you need to make moves. And moves is an acronym. There's a mindset reset for the M. There is owning your new title. You have a new title. Forget about the CEO, the SEO. I don't know what you were. Forget about it. Own your own title now. Become
Yeah.
the CEO and take over your life. The V
Yeah.
is for value your relationships. Create your personal board of directors as these mentors for you. The E is evaluate your money situation, because that's going to change. And everyone has a relationship with money, and they have to really evaluate that. And then the S is the most important part, and that's what I'm doing with you now, and that's share your story. So many people are embarrassed. They don't want to talk about it. Think about this. And this is the reason the corporate breakup came up. Because when you go through a regular relationship breakup, I don't know about you, but I've had people come over with wine or tequila. You don't know. They come over with wine. They come over to watch movies. They tell you to focus on yourself, work on yourself before you move to the next person or whatever. They support you through that. When you
Mhm.
break up with corporate, they're like, that girl needs to get a job.
Bye.
Right. And so you don't get the same support. So that's
Yeah.
what I try to do. I try to offer that support through my company. And it just all comes down to doing resetting your mind. And it takes a moment, and I'm patient. I wait for it. I ask questions. We work on self a lot. And that's how we get through it. So that was my long answer.
I love it. It's beautiful, and we needed every part of it.
Thank you.
I'd really like to know more about that entrepreneur mindset, especially when you said there's that difference between independent contractor versus business owner. Can you speak to the difference between employee mindset versus business owner mindset versus independent contractor and versus entrepreneur?
Yes, 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 absolutely. So let's start off with employee mindset. When you
Yeah.
work for a corporate job, think of this. You've been told what time to come in, what time to eat, who friends to have, where to go, what clients to have, when to give them back, and then they might let you stay after you learn those things. But you've been given direction the entire time, and you really can't veer off from those directions. You have a company line to hold, right? So that's
Yeah.
the employee mindset. And you do it because this is what everybody around you are doing. I did it for 30 plus years. I have no regrets. So then you want to become an independent contractor. Let me move into that. So an independent contractor really is, it's like being an employee, but also having contract work. So this particular company, I worked for a company. I could only sell their products because it's still company. They would give me some type of direction. Everything was on a contract, so my contract said I had to fulfill these certain things. But the independent part came in is I have to pay my own taxes. I have to buy my own health insurance. I have to pay for things to sit at my desk. I have to pay for. I have to pay to pick up my phone because I'm not an employee. I do contract work with them, so I have to fulfill a contract. That's what an independent contractor is. So you kind of get some corporate stuff because you are working under an umbrella, but you are
Mhm.
contracted. And a lot of these companies will hire people to come in and do contract work because one, they can pay them more. You can get paid being an independent contractor because they don't have to pay for health care insurance. They don't have to pay for all of these other things that employees have to pay for or employers
Mhm.
have to pay for. So it's not a bad thing. It's just where you want to fit. A lot of people do it. A lot of people are great at it.
Yeah.
That wasn't my hustle at the time. So then you worked your way towards a full blown entrepreneur, and that's both feet in. You are the company and you are the independent contractor for yourself. And all of those things that you've learned along the way, you should be able to apply them to your business. You may have worked at a company. Think of it this way. You could have you could necessarily be an apprentice, because you've been doing all of this stuff, and now you've taken all of that you've learned plus life skills that you've learned,
Yeah.
and you make it into your own. And that's where I am now. I put both feet in. I don't have one foot out anymore, both feet in, and I'm a full blown entrepreneur. So the transition of that mindset is crazy because at one point, I can tell you this, I would do stuff and then I would wait, almost as if I was waiting on direction as to what to do next. Because that's what I was used to, remember? So that mindset has to change. That mindset has to say, I got to get up, I have to do it, these things. Here's the other thing that has to change. If you're an entrepreneur, you think you have to keep working all the time. And
Yeah.
that's where you apply those corporate skills and you say, these are my office hours. These are the boundaries I've set. These are
Mhm.
the things that I will and will not accept because I said I wanted to do this on my own to spend more time with my friends and family. So let's do that. Create boundaries. If you don't want to take a call on Sundays, then don't take the call on Sunday. Don't feel obligated because you're an entrepreneur and you got to work all the time. So that's that transition of mindset. And that's what I really help people with. I had to do it, I had to go through it. And I am eager to tell somebody these are the things you're going to go through because I've gone through them myself.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love hearing how you like walked us through the kind of flow of differences
Mhm.
between them, and just kind of how the mindset needs to shift. And a part that really stood out for me is when you said like when you would be doing something but then you like sit and wait as if for direction.
Yeah.
And it reminded me, like in some of my previous roles, I've worked as an administrative assistant or an office assistant. And so I was in a very supportive role of helping to ensure other people were getting their stuff done. But that's a challenge that I've had in my own business is I will have the tools to kind of keep me accountable, but
Yeah.
then I'm not on my own tail as I am on other people's tail
Yeah.
and helping them achieve their goals. And I'm like, why? So how do you get yourself like get it together so that you can make forward movement on the things that you need to get done?
So you have to recognize what you need done first. That was the biggest thing for me. And once I recognized what I needed, you have to invest in yourself, or you're not. You're going to be a hamster on a spinning wheel if you don't. It's going to take you longer to get there. And there are some experts out there. Remember, you're an expert in your profession. There are other people who do other things. So here's the best example I have. There are some skills you can bring over that you love. Maybe you were in at work at one point and working in corporate and you went through your performance review and they're telling you the sky is the limit with you and you're the greatest person. But this one thing you do isn't as high as the ranking as the other. For me, that's admin. Admin drives me crazy.
That's my specialty.
Oh, I know. And I love to learn how to do it, but I don't want to keep doing it. I know how to cut
Yeah.
my own grass too. I don't cut. I just don't like I that's not where I want to spend my time.
Yeah.
My time is relationship building. So what did I do? I invested in myself. I hired a VA, which is a virtual assistant. There are tons of them out there now. As a matter of fact, I'm now coaching her because she saw some of my material and she's like, I need coaching now. So
Oh, that's
um,
incredible.
so she is, she's applying herself to be able to coach others because she does it so well as a virtual assistant. But she put all of these systems together for me. Once I recognized I need these things because I'm taking in clients, I'm doing it the old fashioned way
Mm,
because that's all I know. There's a world of new things out there. And so
yeah.
I took the investment, hired her. She took me through months of process, how to make the CRM work, and that's a client retention management system, how to get your website going, how to create these chat bots, which is it's a it's a robot. You know how you have to check that box and say I am not a robot because there are robots out there.
Yes.
So she creates these things for me and she links all of these systems together so that they're automated. And the only thing I have to do at this point is look at my calendar, whatever pops up on my
Beautiful.
calendar, because there's other things that are in place. So she recognized that of me, and I recognized her skills, and we played off of each other. So I hope that answers your question. You have to lean on
Yeah.
the skills that you're strong at, and the
Mhm.
ones you're not, you do have to make that investment.
Absolutely. That makes total sense, especially it's as you said, like we have our areas that we're really, really good at, and it's good to honor that, but it's also good to honor that we can have other people who can support us when it gets to that point, so that we can take off even more and learn and
Yeah,
collaborate with each other. So
exactly.
I love that.
There's a lot of groups out there, you trust me, of people who may even do the same thing you're doing, and you all are different. You all are doing things different. So the one question I get a lot is, Katrina, how do I stand out? Or I don't want to really talk about that because there's somebody else on the call who does the same thing.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no, talk about it as much as you can. And I love the analogies, right? So I'm like the analogy queen. So it's like when you go into a department store, let's say TJ Maxx, right? You go into TJ Maxx and there
Okay.
is a circular rack that are full of white t-shirts, just white t-shirts, but they're all different brands and they all have a different feel. And maybe the neck
Mhm.
on one of them is different than the other. You pick out the t-shirt that works best for you and your body and the fabric or whatever. That's the
Yeah.
same way with coaches. That's the same. You pick out the one that's best for you. We may do the same thing, but you pick the one that works for you. That's
Yeah.
the best way I can say. I use a lot of analogies just so you can understand. That's what it's
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all have things and people that we resonate with, and yeah, I love that.
Yep. Yep.
And kind of taking off onto that aspect of working with others and learning from others and finding those special fits with others. You also speak about 5 different types of mentors
Oh
every
yeah.
person needs. And I love this because I didn't really like I've always known of the importance of mentorship, of having mentors, but and also being a mentor. But to have you break it down into the different ones and the reasons why they're important, I really enjoyed that. Can you walk us through those and let us know how can we find these mentors?
Yeah. Well, the I'm going to take the easy question first. How do you find?
Okay.
They're probably right in your life already, and you have
Okay.
not recognized that this is what they're doing for you. So that's the second part of the question I answered first for you. And then I
Wonderful.
talk about the 5 mentors, and I've even upgraded now. I call them a board of directors because they're kind of helping you along the way. It's not like a formal
Yeah.
board of directors, but they're your personal board and they're helping you. So you have the master, right? So the master is the first person I talk about. And the master is that individual you may not even be in touch with, but you may follow them. You follow them because they have, you know, good ethics and they have, good character and you really relate to them. You relate to their home life or what they do outside in philanthropy, anything you relate to. And I like to say Michelle Obama because a lot of people will say Michelle Obama. I really love her. I like her, what she's about. That is your master. You may not ever talk to her, or you could. I don't know. You might. But this is a person that is way high up, and you look to that person to kind of help you. You can read some affirmations from her or whatever. So you use that master. That's the first one. And then you have a champion. The champion is the person that you want on your team. They're going to champion you no matter what. You could do some wrong and they're still going to champion you because they believe in you. They know who you are as a person. I have these people in my life. Before I know it, they'll tell somebody, "Oh, she runs a Fortune 500 company." I'm like, "No, I don't." But they will champion everything you do. If you're doing any type of marketing for an entrepreneur, that's the person you talk to first because they're going to push it out there because they really believe in you. They believe in what you can do and they were championing you along the way. And then you have a co-pilot. This co-pilot is a person that maybe, if you think of it in work terms, the person you work with, you go to lunch with, you guys talk about your boss, you talk about someone knows exactly what you do. They know
Yeah.
what you do because they're doing it as well. So that's when I say there's a lot of these people out there and you may do the same thing, but it's good to have someone understand what perspective you have because they do the same thing. They could be going through the same thing. You can share your goals with them and they get it because they have to go through the same thing. That's a
Mhm.
co-pilot. That's that person that's right there with you. And then you have an anchor. And I want to be very clear about an anchor because this is a tough one. The
Mhm.
anchor is never negative, never that negative person. However, they will tell it to you straight. They will tell you, stop bouncing around. I know what that champion told you, but here's who you are as a person. I know you, they may be a childhood friend that you grew up with, somebody you really trust to make those tough decisions with you that help you along the way. And the last one is my absolute favorite, and that is the reverse.
Mhm.
The reverse is somebody that you're mentoring because you have to pay it back as well. But
Yeah.
it's a reverse because you learn from them. My reverse happens to be my son. He's a
Oh,
Gen Z. And if you want to know how not to work a 9 to 5, talk to a Gen Z.
amazing.
Because they figured it out. But it's actually, you can learn so much from someone. They don't necessarily have to be younger than you, but maybe they're earlier in their stage, in their career stage, and they may have picked up on some things that are new that are out there that you haven't thought about because you've been doing it for a while.
Mhm.
It's just a person that you're mentoring, and you definitely try to learn something from them as you mentor them. And those are the
Yeah.
five. And again, where do you find them? They might be in your life already and they may be playing these roles. If they are, approach them and tell them, you know what, this is the role you play for me. And even if you want to say, hey, can we schedule a meeting once a month so that I can tell you what I'm doing and tell you why you fit that role for me? I think that will be an honor to them because they don't know they're playing a role. They just know you guys talk. So
Mhm.
those are the five. And I always think you should have them around. Like if you literally want to name them the board of directors, you'll have a chair, a co-chair, a president, a treasurer, a secretary. Name them that way. It's just making sure that they're always around you. And they could change. You can
Mhm.
shuffle them, all of those things. But I just think it's so important to have that group of, you're going to need them as an entrepreneur.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love how you bring the relationships into it and just highlight the important aspects of the relationships and what makes them so special and
Yeah,
necessary.
yeah, they're necessary. I identified with mine like right away. And I was like, oh, that's what they're doing for me. Like my anchor is on it. And I'm like, I know. But that's why I preference it by saying that person's never negative, but they will give it to you straight. And that's when they say, you know, I need to come to you because I know that you're gonna tell me like it is. And
Mhm.
they will say, based on your personality, this, and this, it's a good idea that you're going this way, but you may want to rethink this part because I don't know if you're gonna sustain that. You know, just
Yeah.
something. They'll give it to you real.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love talking about
Nice.
them. I talk about them as if they're right here all the time. They're not.
Yeah. Can kind of visualize it as well. And just when you talk about it, I just kind of imagine a room of people sitting together and just yeah, just having these conversations about like your evolution
Yeah,
and but knowing different, like just knowing you in different ways and all being supportive of your development and your well-being.
yeah. And if you want to get bold enough, bring them all together at one point and say, here's what you guys do for me. I don't have a celebration for them. I don't know. But it's, it's one of those things where you definitely need them because there's so many ebbs and flows of entrepreneurship, and you're going to need support along the way, and these people will support you because they know you and they know your dream, and they're trying to help you get to your dream. So use
Yeah.
them. Use them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. And with that, I think a good direction to go in is, we're talking about working with other people to help you to achieve your dreams and actually being conscious about that, reaching out to them. Um, so then my next question is about complacency. And that comes up because it's like just kind of getting comfortable where you are, not reaching out for help or just not thinking about what could potentially be. Why is complacency dangerous?
Because when you allow complacency, you get rid of curiosity.
Hmm.
If you so I did this, I read this article in LinkedIn, and it was all about curiosity. And it talked about how curiosity and how wide you have to have your mindset, or your brain has to think wide enough. So if you can imagine, your thinking is this far, right? So
Hmm.
you have a lot of questions, you have a lot of curiosity, you're trying to figure out, how do I get here and understand this? So there's a distance between it. It's when people's distance starts to get about right here, and they think they know everything and they don't have far to go. I already know that.
Yeah.
Then you get complacent. You're like, I don't want to learn anything else. It's like you turn off the learning switch.
Hmm.
I have been curious my entire life. What about that? Well, what happens if I did that? Like, just stay curious, like wanting to learn. Like, I love that this is a new podcast for you, because you're willing to
Thank you.
jump in to something different. What is that about? I wonder if I do that. I wonder how that works. Like, that's what you have to keep asking yourself. I wonder what happens if I did that. Because remember, I'm trying to get you on the other side of what if. So what if I
Yeah.
do succeed? What if I do? So that keeps curiosity open. So I think complacency comes in when curiosity shrinks. I
Hmm.
hope that makes sense.
It does. It does. I can definitely see how that could happen. As you've said, that I can think about certain individuals I've met, and just like the sense of jadedness that can happen,
Yeah.
and just this like I guess when you say lack of curiosity, I see like this just what's the word? Just like this loss of excitement for
Yeah.
life, and
It is.
like losing the zest for life, and
Losing the
yeah,
zest. That's perfect way to say it, because you want to learn, and that's why it's so important to learn from people who are not in your space. Like, I learned so much from my son. I mean, he doesn't know he's probably my mentor, but I do feel like I learned so much from him because I'm curious. I want to know what their generation is doing, what they're thinking, how they're thinking, why they're thinking that way. You'll never
yeah.
figure it out because it's so different than mine. But at least I know, oh, that makes sense, or that doesn't make sense to me at all. But it's the evolution of people and being curious. I want to know what other countries are doing. I want to know, and that's that. You have to stay curious. You have to be in learning mode all the time. You can't get to a point where your curiosity is here, because once it's here, you think you know everything, and there's
Hmm.
no more to know. So keep it at a wide span.
Yeah. I love that visual, and I love that answer. And then my next question, you talked about the importance of networking and how you help people to improve networking. And the question that came up is, why is it important to be strategic and focus with your networking? And the reason I asked this is I remember when I first like got laid off, I was just like, you know what? I'm going back into networking. I need to meet people. I need to get work this muscle again, because I had stopped for a while. And I was just like, I was just attending any kind of online networking event that I could. I was just open to meeting whoever. But then I got to a point where I had to take like several months off to just stop, because I'm like, I'm meeting people, but I'm not really building, or I'm meeting them once, but I don't know where we're going. And And so when I read that, I'm like, oh, I would love to ask you this question, because you did mention, like, for a specific scenario,
Yeah.
you need to go in with a plan. So I'd love to know more about that.
You're just going to be all over the place if you don't. Like, then that's why I titled it Networking is a Party. No, it's business. Not. You go in there, it's work. So if you go in and say, here's my agenda, you have a goal when you're trying to get there. You're trying to meet the right people. You're trying to meet as many people or as less people as you can. I don't want to meet a whole bunch. Maybe only 5 work today, but maybe on another event, maybe 15 will work. So I'm trying to get to those people. That way I can weed out the rest. So when you have a strategy in place, the very first thing, and what I always talk about before I start anything, is your message. What is your message? Networking is a place for you to test out your message. And what I
Mhm.
mean by your message is your personal statement, your elevator pitch, whatever that is. People will respond to you on networking events to tell, they will either hold on to your words or they don't remember what you said. And that gives you an opportunity to change your message so that they can
Yeah.
hold on to it. Like, what is the hook for you? So that's one way. It gives you an opportunity to practice. And then the other thing is, if I'm very strategic in my approach, and I taught a workshop on this too, is the follow up that has to happen after a networking event. The follow up should be happening. I think most of us are pretty good at networking. Some people don't like it, but they know it's part of their job, what they have to do. But I think we all make rookie moves when it comes to follow up. We wait
Yeah.
till the what happens? We wait till the event is over. We have these numbers. Now the next day we're going to call them. Some people wait too long and then they don't know
Yeah.
what event they met you at. Those
Yes.
are all wrong. The follow up literally should start in while you're networking. I meet you, I should be already thinking, how am I going to talk to her again? What am I going to talk about? And that's what I will bring up with you to keep you interested. So that when I do call you, it's a meeting now. And it's not just, hey, you want to do this? You're like, no, we spoke about this at the event. So the follow up should happen when you meet that person. You should start thinking about, what am I going to do to get this person on my calendar so that we can talk further. That
Hmm.
stems from your message. How can I
Yeah.
get them to understand that I can actually help them? So there's strategy to networking, and it's so important. But again, if you are in a position where you just want to go out and hang out with people, then do that. But then if you come back and you say, you know what, at this particular event, I want to meet these type of people.
Mhm.
I want to talk to this many, and I want to have a solid conversation with them, then you set that up before you get there. You set it up with your message.
Mhm.
That's why it's important. And you got to keep doing it. Consistency,
Yes.
follow up. It's everything. And it can be so hard because it could get very tiring. So pick like 3 and just frequent those 3. I have people inviting me to networking events all the time. And I'm like, I don't want to go to that one. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to gain anything from now. And they just want to have chats. I don't want to
Mm.
talk. And then there are sometimes I'll say, yeah, I'll go because I don't want to do anything else. So go ahead. You pick what you want to do at these events.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's
Yes. Yes. Thank you for answering that question.
sure.
And then my last question for you is, what would you say? So for those of us who are, whether it be already dipping our toes into entrepreneurship or starting a business or looking at independent contracting or even just thinking about it, what would you say are your top 3 either books? I like to say books just because we're talking about your book, but it could also be like resources
Mhm.
that you highly recommend people read, or things that you've really enjoyed and had a good experience from.
Okay. So I am a huge documentary person. And what I am watching now is helping me understand um, just how entrepreneurs are built. And
Hmm.
it's on the History Channel, and it's called The Food That Built America. So I watch that constantly because there's all entrepreneurs and how they had to think of certain things. It was in an era where inventions were very high, popular. But I start to learn that these entrepreneurs have the same type of drive. And so that's what I like to watch it, because I think I'm just fascinated with entrepreneurs, to be honest with you. But then I also have some podcasts. I guess I'm just curious as to how some people really succeed, and they succeed far in it, and what
Yeah.
their drive is for it. So there's a lady that I met. Her name is Andrea Johnson, and I listen to her podcast, and it's called The Intentional Optimistic.
Oh, that's a
Intentional,
beautiful title.
yes. And she's the one who expanded on the curiosity. Like, I listened to a podcast where she talks about curiosity and like all of these things. So that's one that I listen to faithfully.
Oh, that's beautiful.
The other one that I like to listen to, and I this is really crazy, but I listen to I like Michael Lewis. So he's the individual that wrote the screenplay, well, not screenplay, the actual movie, um, The Big Short, because
I've heard of that.
his perspective on things, on how the financial crash was, made it relatable. And it's almost like an unfair comparison. And I do a lot of unfair comparisons in my life about how do I relate this to something that I'm doing, and how you heard me say I have a lot of analogies.
Hmm.
And it's because I try to make people see things in their day to day life and how they can apply that. So he does a lot of that. And I listen to his podcast a lot. So it's
Okay.
Michael Lewis. I listen to Andrea Johnson. And those are the two that I listen to consistently. I do listen to Marianne Williamson, because I actually, Marianne was my coach for like 9 months. She's the one who helped me with my mindset and how to trend. Because when I started this journey, it was more about writing a book. I was like, oh, I have a business book. That's all I kept saying. And she's like, it's not. I'm like, it is a business book. It's just telling people how. But she helped me realize that the power I had in helping these people transition, because they know their skills. I'm just helping them identify them. What they don't know is the fear of transition. They all have this gut feeling, the fear of transition. So what I would say to you and the other individuals who are thinking about it, it's all about the fear. It's a fear of transition. So at one point you have to make a solid decision, and you have to say, I'm going to do this. And it's okay if I fail, because I need to learn from that. I need to be able to learn from some of those things I did and move it forward. You can't get stuck. People fail all the time, I guess. They could fail. But what you need to do is you need to get unstuck, and then move on. You're going to get stuck again and move on. But as long as you know that these are the things that you're going to do, you just be prepared for them. And that's where those mentors come from. That's where understanding your skills come from. That's where having a foundation comes from. All of those things, if you can't tell, builds up to the person that you are.
Yeah.
And that's all I do when I coach with people. I try to get them to understand this is who you are. You can do this. These are things that you tweak in your mind to get there. You have to unhandcuff yourself from the past. You have to be able to mourn it and keep going. So that's
Yeah.
what I'll end with. If you're persistent,
Beautiful.
you'll get it. If you're consistent, you'll keep it. That's my
Mm.
favorite phrase.
I love that. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Persistent and consistent. To
Yeah.
get and to keep. I love
To
that.
get and to keep. Yep.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Our
Thank
next
you.
book. Get into.
I love it. Yes. If you're going to write it, I'm happy to participate. But yes, it was, oh my gosh, it was so nice to see you again, and to talk to you again about your book. And thank you just for creating this beautiful gift. I feel so honored that I was able to talk to you about it and ask you specific questions. And everybody, please check out the show notes. I'm going to be posting Katrina's contact information and information about her book and other links that she would like to share with you, and along with the resources, the podcasts, and the documentary that she recommended as well.
Yeah.
Please reach out to her and connect with her.
I'm on all social media platforms as K Roddy 65, KRODDY 65. And then you can always contact me through my website, which is thecorporatebreakup.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Katrina. Okay,
Thank
so we'll have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Teach Me Freedom podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and found it beneficial. feel free to reach out to us at teachmefreedom2020@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the show on your favorite platform for streaming content. Feel free to comment and leave a 4 or 5 star review if you feel so inclined. Connect with you next time.